Order, order.
The ayes to the right, 228. The noes to the left, 348.
The ayes were 228, the noes were 348, so the noes have it, the noes have it. Unlocked. Motion number 2 on business of the House today. Minister to move. Leader of the House.
Move formally.
The question is on the order paper. The question is, as on the order paper, as many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. We now come to the motion in the name of the Leader of the Opposition on winter fuel payment. Mel Stride, Shadow Secretary of State, to move.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And can I beg to move the motion on the order paper? Madam Deputy Speaker, the decision to remove winter fuel payments has come as a complete shock to millions of pensioners. Pensioners on as little as £11,500 a year. We had no adequate explanation as to why these measures are so urgent. We've had no explanation as to why they had to invoke the special emergency provisions which allow them to bypass the scrutiny of the Social Security Advisory Committee. We've had no explanation as to why no impact assessments were provided. This is a major policy change which will remove entitlement for up to 10 million pensioners, including many who are already in poverty. It is a cut worth £7.5 billion over the course of this Parliament. Rushing such a policy through without taking time to consider impacts, ensure effective and fair implementation and allow possible scrutiny is impossible to justify. This is not the way to make good policy. This is not good government. It is worth considering the conclusions of one of the few bodies which has been afforded the opportunity to scrutinise these regulations. The Secondary Legislation Scrutiny Committee in the Lords have been damning in their criticism of the government's approach, and I refer the House to my remarks in the previous debate when I quoted them at some length. As the committee point out, such measures would normally be subject to consideration of the SAC. This is an important part of the process for any legislation of this nature, as I know well from my time as Work and Pensions Secretary. Conveniently, ministers have claimed the measure is too urgent to wait for the SAC scrutiny. We understand SAC is due to consider the measure, Madam Deputy Speaker, tomorrow. Can the Minister commit to the House today that SAC's report and the government statement responding to any recommendations will be laid before Parliament, before the regulations come into force next week? As the Laws Committee has pointed out, it would seem wholly inappropriate for SAC's views to only be taken into account once the regulations are already in force. In the words of the committee, and I quote, "It remains unclear what the practical impact of any statement might be on regulations which will have already come into effect." And if the government does not intend to provide us with SAC's observations before the House rises on Thursday, why were members asked to consider and vote on the prayer motion against the regulations today before SAC has met? The lack of any impact assessment also means we are severely hampered in our ability to scrutinise this measure. We were told in the explanatory memorandum that, and I quote, "a full impact assessment has not been prepared for this instrument because there is no significant new impact on business, charities or on voluntary bodies." This seems a bold claim to make about such a measure which removes hundreds of pounds of support from some of the most vulnerable elderly households in our